Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Podcast Unflooded. Today, we have a very special guest. This is Timber. Do you want to introduce yourself and your content for the people at home that might not know your channel?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Timber. I think at this point, I'm probably most well known for the GSI skip video. But other than that, I put something in the title screen, just making videos on YouTube. So pretty much only Tears of the Kingdom for now.
That's what I was wondering about. I mainly saw Tears of the Kingdom videos on your channel. Is that where you got started glitch hunting? Have you done glitches for other games? How'd that all get started?
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, I've always played around with glitches in other games, like in for Breath of the Wild. Like messed with speed running it mostly for myself, but I've never really actually glitch hunt, glitch hunted in any game other than Tears of the Kingdom. Um, it mostly spawned from just starting to speed run Tears of the Kingdom, and then trying to think of ways to do things a little faster, and then that kind of snowballed into, well, I know these glitches and I know I could do this with this glitch, so I'm gonna try it. And then that's pretty much where it all got started.
That's awesome. I mean, you said that you were doing some speed running for Breath of the Wild, kind of for your own sake. I guess I'm curious. I'd be really interested to like compare the games. I don't know how much you've delved into that, but like, is there a completely different scene as far as like glitch hunting goes? Are they related because they are built upon the same engine for the casual
Yeah,
viewer? I don't know how much is
from
different under the hood.
yeah, for I don't really know too much about the glitch hunting scene in Breath of the Wild, but I do know that a lot of the people that were glitch hunting in Breath of the Wild came over to Tears of the Kingdom and immediately started trying the things that they knew that they could do from Breath of the Wild, which was probably where a lot of the initial glitches came from, was just kind of stress testing it with issues from the previous game. Um, but I know a lot of the people that I communicate with um, came over from glitch hunting in Breath of the Wild. So
That's cool, but I guess I'm curious too because it is a whole new game. Do you feel like the scene had to like start over? Are there also a lot of people that are glitch hunting for Tears of the Kingdom that are new
I,
as well?
I would say that it seems like it's kind of like a 50-50 ish. There was a decent amount of people who came directly from Breath of the Wild and started glitch hunting. And I mean, that was definitely where we got a lot of the earlier stuff. But there's definitely a lot of new people in the scene too. Like, I mean, I feel like I kind of joined in 2 months into the game, like after my casual playthrough. And, I've seen, unfortunately, a lot of those people leave, but there's been a couple people who stayed, and then there's new people who've joined. Like, I saw, like, there's a guy named Ock, and there was Mulberry. I feel like I saw when they joined, and they are like really really trying to break the game pretty deeply. So I don't know if they were in Breath of the Wild at all, but they were new to me. So and they're doing some pretty impressive stuff. So it's cool to see new people joining in and keeping it going. So
That's cool. I mean, I love how much I've seen already, especially from your videos. I did an interview with Gaming Reinvented, if you know their channel as well. They do Tears of the Kingdom glitches, but that's basically the extent of what I know. But for anyone who hasn't really seen your videos, you mentioned already GSI skip, but I guess kind of what things are possible that might surprise the casual viewer as far as glitches go. That because what I've seen completely breaks the game.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it feels that way, and a lot of the glitches actually for the casual player, they'll probably never really run into them because some of them require like a specific cutscene or a specific setup. And even if you were to run into it casually, it's not something that it wouldn't be like very permanent states. Like a lot of it is temporary and you just hold on to it. But definitely some of the more like, I think casually interesting glitches are uh, doing a steering stick clip, which is there's multiple ways to do it. But if you're able to use the steering stick to clip by like fuse and tingling it, dropping the shield, and trying to get on the stick immediately afterwards, if you stay close enough, you can attach that stick to other objects and then put a second stick, a steering stick, just on the ground and drive remote control car things all over the place. You can fly it all around and stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot of it's like timing based glitches. Like you just have to press things at a very specific time. And at first it's kind of complicated, but once you get the timing down, it's pretty quick, becomes second nature. And there's honestly a lot of stuff you can do. So I think like at some point I would like to make a video like, okay, this is this glitch, how you set it up, and here are ideas. Now go play with it. Like go figure that stuff out, you know? And I think I would really enjoy doing something like that.
I guess that's what I'm interested about is like, what do you think is next? Because I get the impression as a, I'm fairly casual. It seems to me that the community is still pretty early, as far as like what can be discovered. I guess like where do you think it's going? Is there a holy grail yet? Because I know Wind Waker speedrunning, it's like there was this whole thing with barrier skip, and it was this like thing that's like if we could only do that glitch.
Yeah.
Do you think you're gonna find something similar in Tears of the Kingdom?
I mean, I think where the speed run, it's always hard to tell, you know, what's coming up. But we've been playing a lot with like a somewhat of a like a wrong warp, which is basically, you know, you kind of load in or start you warp to a place or you load in and Link's not where he's supposed to be. He's somewhere else. Um, and it's not been long since we found that and trying to like dig into it and see what's going on. I would say, you know, the main I would say one of my big goals, which I don't even know if it's even possible, but it would be to be able to skip GSI or the Great Sky Island in a actual speed run, like at any percent speed run, because right now, I mean, it takes way too long to do it. But the goal would be let's skip the whole tutorial and get straight to the end of the game, because it would cut off like 20 minutes if it were possible. And my strategy for stuff like that is like, I just want to make it happen the one time, however long it takes me to do it, whatever difficulty it requires, I'll make that happen and then kind of piece it backwards. Like, we'll take this out. Let's not use this glitch. Like, let's see how we can shorten it. I highly doubt that we're going to, like, I don't know. I would have said a few months ago that I felt like I doubted I'd ever skip the Great Sky Island. So you can never tell. But as of right now, the speed run is like pretty low, and it's going to take a pretty big discovery to make a new huge time save for sure.
That's interesting. Do you know how low the world record is right now?
It's 40 minutes and 57 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's shorter than I thought. I haven't been paying attention to it. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's still pretty short. I think one of the big things would be skipping the cutscene at the beginning of the game. It's 4 or 5 minutes of just watching a movie. Not only does that kind of take away from, like, if you have to reset after that fact, then you have to watch it again. And it's kind of discouraging to want to keep pushing through or try harder glitches after that fact, because that means you have to go back and do it if you mess that up. So I don't think there's going to be a way to skip the that cutscene at the very beginning of the game, but it would be nice.
Is that cutscene? Is that in a special map, or is that like in the final map of the game?
So it's in a special map. So like there's a prologue where you first walk with Zelda down to see Ganondorf, and that's all sectioned off. And I think one of the primary problems is the cutscene is like when you first kind of run into Ganondorf and that whole thing starts. That's an actual like cutscene, like that's pre-rendered. You're just watching a movie, when a lot of the cutscenes actually take place in the game. And so you can actually manipulate a lot of those cutscenes to do all sorts of weird stuff. But this one in particular, it's just a movie. It's just playing on your screen. There's really nothing you could do within that. So
interesting. Well, maybe that'll change. I don't know. I mean, it's still early on.
I've definitely given a lot of I've definitely given it a lot of attempts, for sure. I would like to skip it desperately. So,
well, that'd be awesome. I'm curious. Has getting into speedrunning taught you anything about like how you think the game might have been made? Kind of like taught you some like developer secrets that the casual player might not really think about the way that it was actually put together.
Yeah, I mean, I would say because when you are glitch hunting, you have to like sort of think in the developers, like you gotta try to like, why would they do it this way, or how would they make this work together, so that, you know, the more you can think like the developer and how they put it together, the better you are at taking it back apart to make it do what you want it to do. But all in all, like, I mean, because a lot of the times I don't have like a developing background. I've never really coded or nothing like that. So a lot of that stuff is like foreign to me. But uh, I would say like what I would feel like I understand about the mechanics of the game, I would be uncomfortable saying that that's like definitive as to how it works. For the most part, I work in the realm of like, I feel like it does this, I feel like it does that, you know, and this could be it. And like, I could be right, but I'm not willing to stake anything on top of that, you know?
Yeah, as long as you can pull off what you're trying to,
Yeah,
what
right.
you're
As
trying
long
to
as it
do, right?
works, after it works, I'm like, I don't even care how it works, you know? It does what it needed to do.
Have you been surprised by anything like that? Like, if you had theories about like why something would work, and then you try repeating it, and then it just does not work again?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the big things in one of the bigger things about like GSI skip is, you know, when you make it to the end of the game, there's a platform with the army, and you have to fight the army. And if you're standing on that platform, no matter where you're at in the game, especially before finishing the Great Sky Island, but even before that, like before the title cutscene, like if you're able to take Link right from where he wakes up and plop him down on the army platform, that cutscene's going to play no matter what. And it's mostly due to his presence in that location, his standing presence in that location. Um, and he doesn't void out. But there are a lot of other cutscenes like that in the game where, as long as you're just standing there, the cutscene will start. And, you know, I had the prediction, or like what the hope that it maybe had something to do with the fact that, you know, you were in an area in which started a cutscene and that got rid of the barrier or something like that. Um, and that turned out definitely not to be the case. And honestly, there were people in the community that were telling me otherwise, that were being pretty clear about why this worked. And I was like, no, I feel like it works like this. I'm gonna keep going at it. And you know, eventually, just recently, honestly, I did enough testing to finally say like I'm completely wrong, and this, you guys are completely right. You know, this whole, because it basically, the game keeps track of where you're at within the game, and at certain points, you know, once you've reached it, it kind of puts a flag up that says, hey, he's at this location. And a lot of that includes like visiting the Temple of Time for the first time, or, you know, getting your third ability or getting the recall ability, visiting the altar where you first hand over the decayed master sword. It keeps track of that in the same like kind of line of flags. And then when you get to army's at the end of that line of flags. And so when you're there, it just flags that you've already done all that stuff in the past already. So it's like, it ended up being a lot more simpler than I was making it out to be. That's for sure.
That's interesting. I know there's some past Zelda games where, if you could just get to a certain point, it'll assume that you've done previous things, and that'll end up even giving you items that you may not have actually gotten, but it assumes that you got. Is
For
there anything
sure.
like that in Tears of the Kingdom where you can actually like get stuff or change your inventory just based on getting to a certain point?
Yeah, there isn't actually, and I'm pretty comfortable saying that there isn't anything like that. I mean, you would have to like, you know, be at the, like the demon dragon fight maybe to get the master sword without actually pulling it from Zelda or something. Um, and I mean, there are weird situations in which the game tries to correct something that you've done, like glitch wise. Like if you have the master sword before you actually pull it on like 1.1 and up, which is pretty much current and everything, um, it'll take it from you. It'll just take it from you. If you have the decayed master sword in your inventory after beating the Great Sky Island, it'll take it from you. On load, it'll just, you're not supposed to have this. I'm taking it from you. But in terms of getting things, the inventory is pretty secluded from events in the game, like moving forward. Because you would imagine, I've skipped, like when I skipped the Great Sky Island, I skipped getting all the abilities. And when I made it to Army, I should have all the abilities. That's what the logic states once he gets the third ability, was start the whole recall deal. But I don't get any of that. So for the most part, it's the inventory and like the key items. So it's all pretty secluded from everything else that happens in the game.
That's interesting. I mean, that seems unique for it. I guess I don't
For
know if you played
sure.
any other Zelda games or like in the glitch run, but I guess I'm curious, is there anything else about Tears of the Kingdom that you think is really unique to its design?
I mean, I would definitely say that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild are pretty sectioned off from a lot of the other games. And they have, since the game is allowing you to have so much freedom in that, there's not a very linear path to get anything done. You can do anything in any order. That's probably why that inventory is so secluded from the goals out there. And in other games like Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword, when you're getting into, you're doing back in time or something like that, it's giving you items because it's either showing it in the main menu as if you had it, or stuff like that. That those games are more linear. They do have a little bit of freedom in them, but for the most part, when you get to a location, you're supposed to have these things. There's just no real world where you're not supposed to have them. So, but in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, like, I mean, you could be anywhere with nothing, especially, thinking you could leave the Great Sky Island and go straight to Ganondorf. They have no clue what you should or shouldn't have when you get down there. That's all your decision. So,
That's interesting. I guess it surprised me. In one of your videos, you pointed out that like shrines are like in the same map, like loaded in as the overworld,
yeah.
and just like for the whole game to be like one map. It's like I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that.
Yeah. And it's definitely like one of the cool parts about it is I don't know if you ever played the master mode and the DLC, the Trial of the Sword for Breath of the Wild. Um, if you were able to get out of bounds in that Trial of the Sword, you would see shrines like placed everywhere. All the like different levels to that DLC are all contained also within the same box that Hyrule's contained in. And actually, instead of making these individual kind of maps for each one, they decided to just plug them all into the same area, which I mean makes sense, but also makes it pretty breakable. But the regular, like, I don't know how many shrines were in Breath of the Wild, but the regular shrines that were in Breath of the Wild, just like the regular shrines that are in Tears of the Kingdom, they all have like an individual map. But it's like there's a box, and all it does is wipe away Hyrule and plug the shrine in and put you there. So all the coordinates and stuff like that, they're the same, like whether you're in the shrine or you're in Hyrule. So it definitely opens up a lot of opportunities for sure.
That's interesting. Do you think is that to maybe save loading time, or do you think there's a reason for that?
I would say I would say that probably not on loading time, just out of necessity, because like what I imagined it was like, is if you're building the game, you've built all this like Hyrule, this location, you're not going to tack on to the side of this world an empty box that will like open up a shrine. It's kind of like just utilizing the space that they have. Um, and it's kind of hard to like make sense. I don't know if it actually provides like any sort of benefit other than it's just kind of like necessary. It's kind of like this is just the way they're going to do it. So
That's interesting. You said earlier that like you got into speedrunning Tears of the Kingdom after a casual playthrough. I mean, are you like is this all coming from being a Zelda fan? And like, I guess I'm curious as to your experience with the series and what what even got you into Zelda.
oh yeah, I mean I'm a huge Zelda fan. I've played pretty much every single game other than Triforce Heroes. Um, I didn't beat the Four Swords, and I didn't beat what was the other one? The train on the Spirit Tracks.
I haven't beaten it either.
Spirit Tracks has a pretty ballin' OST, but I didn't. I never beat it because I had played Phantom Hourglass, and I think it took me a while to beat that. And by the time I was done, Spirit Tracks came out, and I was like, "Well, let me play this one." But I was kind of burnt out on the DS gameplay, and I put it down and just never picked it back up for years. So, but for the most part, I love the series. I've played it my whole life. I started with Ages and Seasons on for the Game Boy Color. Those were the ones that I had, and then yeah, just played every one of them ever since. You know, I mainly got into wanting to do this, like making content for Tears of the Kingdom, whenever they announced it originally, when it was just like the sequel to Breath of the Wild was in development. I was like, well, I've always kind of wanted to make content, and that's the whole reason I kind of speed ran Breath of the Wild. Was just like, well, I should learn this because I'm sure the engine's going to be similar, and that'll help me whenever this game's done. I didn't do it for too long. I did it long enough to where I could beat the whole game in like under an hour, which was extremely fun. Honestly, I loved it. I loved the mechanics of speedrunning Breath of the Wild and the glitches that were used. But yeah, once I got this game, I'm honestly like, I'm a pretty vanilla casual player. Like, I got Tears of the Kingdom and I was like, I'm not watching any speed runs. I don't care about any glitches. Like, I don't want to use a single glitch at all. No duping, no nothing. Like, I just kept to myself and played the game. And I think I got about 250 hours in before I had actually before I actually went and just finished the game. And after that, I was like watching all the speed runs, watching all the glitch videos, like just consuming. So that's pretty much. And then once I got that, I was like, I want to speed run this game. So that's just where I started learning and going from there. So
That's cool, and I love that you bring up like doing your casual playthrough with no glitches first. And I feel like it's kind of a misconception that people think the speedrunners they're there to skip your favorite parts of the game, right? They're there because they don't care about the story. And I was like, no,
yeah,
most of these people have done a casual playthrough. They love the game, and then that's why they speedrun it, just to
yeah,
engage
for
with it even
sure.
deeper.
To me, like I mean, you know, I have friends that play games, and every now and then they'll be the type of person that skips some dialogue because they read it, and I'm the kind of person that's like, that is the worst thing you could do. They paid these wonderful voice actors with their beautiful voices to voice act those lines, and just because you read it too fast doesn't mean you shouldn't listen to the whole thing, you know. And the only reason the only reason I've continued to make like or continue to play this game like 8-9 months after its release is because I've had a lot of fun playing it and I love it, and I still find a lot of enjoyment, and I beat it casually, glitchless. Pretty much, I didn't 100% it because boy, I'm not gonna get all the Koroks. I'm sorry, that's crazy. But you know, I'm just continuing to find ways to play it and setting new goals and trying to beat those goals and putting limitations on myself. And so the only reason I do what I do now is because I enjoyed it so much, you know, playing it casually.
Well, I had a really fun time playing it casually too, and it's been nice to I don't know. I've seen a lot of reviews, and people have kind of been like, Tears of the Kingdom came out like almost a year ago, and people have been kind of negative about it. I love the game, and I love talking about it and delving into it. I guess I'm curious, like kind of where you stand, because I know there's like more traditional Zelda fans versus new fans. To me, I'm a Zelda fan. I love all of it, but I guess I'm curious, what your favorite in the series is, and how you feel about these new Switch games.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, it's kind of weird to see some of the discourse, I guess, over Tears of the Kingdom, some of the differing opinions. I mean, I think, you know, there's a lot of ways to kind of take Tears of the Kingdom. It was a $70 game. There is a lot of additions, but there are a lot of things that were reused. And for the most part, it's kind of like, I don't know. I often choose not to just think that much about it, and maybe that makes me a a bad customer and I'm not demanding for better or something, but I'm just like, I play it, I'm having fun. I really don't care. How did it make me feel my first playthrough before I started listening to other people's opinions? And I usually hold on to that. Now, I don't think that discredits other people's opinions. I think there are definitely um, there's a lot of value to criticizing something, in demanding for better, because we don't know what we could have had if things had been just a little bit different. But for the newer, like the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, as opposed to like the older Zelda formula and these aren't Zelda games or whatever, like it's really hard for me because I I just like try to have fun playing the game, to be honest. I would say like I was more critical of Breath of the Wild's dungeons and bosses than I was Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom, to me, like, I mean, yeah, they could be more in-depth dungeons, but at least their bosses didn't kind of look the same, and they act a little bit different. At least they were all like uniquely looking and had all new strategies rather than just shooting them in the face. So I was happy with that upgrade, and plus all the newer enemies and stuff like that. So I think like there's a world for both. I mean, when Wind Waker came out, people were just like, yeah, this is going to be a garbage game. Look at the graphics. No, this is not the Zelda formula, and it ended up being amazing. And it's definitely one of the games that, like, if you were to go back to the section of time in which it was released, you would have heard a lot of the kind of talking points you kind of hear right now about Tears of the Kingdom. This isn't a Zelda game. Doesn't look like a Zelda game. Blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of like, I don't know, I think retrospect in the future will tell us more than maybe how we feel about it currently. Because I was definitely one of those people that was like, this cell shaded graphic style is lame. I don't want nothing to do with it. And I play it and I'm just like, this is one of the best games I've ever played. So I would say that, I don't know, just enjoy the game. And if you don't like it, don't play it. But in terms of like my favorite Zelda game, I don't know. That's a hard pick for sure. I don't know. Maybe. It requires so much thought for me. I just like them all, and I hate how vanilla that answer is. But I've had fun with every single one of them. So I mean, I know people even say bad things about Skyward Sword, and I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I mean, that's how I feel. It's like picking kids, right? It's like I can't pick a favorite. I love them all, and I love them
Yeah,
for
right.
different reasons. And I definitely sometimes, I guess, because I really relate with so much of what you just said, and I don't like being critical of the games, especially since I love them. Except for the fact that it's like, well, I do want to voice, especially now. Like, it's like I want to talk about what do I want Nintendo to do differently in the future. It's like that's kind
Hmm.
of where my criticism comes from. It's not like, do I enjoy it? Do I not? Or like, am I going to be super critical of this thing I love? I love
Yeah,
it, but I also want to have a conversation about like, what do I want them to do differently moving forward? Which is
for
why I
sure.
guess like I don't feel the need to be critical about old games that I love. Like maybe they're not perfect, but if I still love them, then it's not
Yeah.
worth it to be constructive now.
That's for sure. And I think giving that kind of feedback or voicing that feedback is definitely important, to hopefully helping them, make different decisions. There are definitely aspects of Tears of the Kingdom that could have been better, and having that out there for them to hear is very important. But I think also like there are times in which people use pretty like harsh language or just like kind of are overly critical, and those types of things. I feel like you never know what this large company is going to really take in and understand what's like maybe just the internet being the internet versus people giving genuine feedback. And I feel like, those instances can cause maybe too harsh of a course correction, because you've seen that with other developers in other games when people have been upset about like the path that is taken, and then you get this weird course correction that doesn't like kind of vibe, but then you alienate the people who just started playing Zelda and all they know is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So it's like it becomes a mixed bag if you don't consider your words carefully, I guess.
I totally agree. I think we have to be kind and fair in our feedback when we give it, even when it's harsh. And I, like right now, I don't do a review channel, so I don't feel the need to criticize.
Yeah,
Just talking about these things I like.
I think that's the kind of how I am. It's like I don't have a review channel. I don't criticize games for YouTube. I just play them. So if I'm having fun, then that's what matters to me, honestly.
Well, I'm curious about kind of what other games are you interested in now that you've done all these glitch hunting videos? Are there games you're interested in getting into next? Whether that's other Zelda games or just other games that you're interested in picking apart?
I mean, for the most part, I haven't really thought that far ahead. I do find myself like a little tired of playing Breath of the Wild. Very like usually right after the video's release, like I have this kind of like relief that this video's done. But I have a list of things that I want to do in the game, and it doesn't take me but like a day of just kind of like watching TV and chill and not playing the game at all to be like, oh, I gotta get back, gotta get to doing what I'm doing. And usually once I'm back at it, I'm having just as much fun as I was before. But I do think as I feel like I'm a pretty new YouTuber making videos, and so I don't really know like what I'm supposed to do. If I'm supposed to, do I ever pivot? When do I pivot? What do I pivot to? Those questions are always in the back of my mind. But for the most part, I'm like, I'm gonna just stick with what I'm doing and enjoy that. I do play. I have been playing other games. I could play Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and I'm like halfway through it. I play with my girlfriend a lot, and that one's really good. I've been having a lot of fun. I've been trying to play that one for a little while. And then, I mean, that new Elden Ring DLC, I'm about it. Like, I'm so excited for that. But for the most part, I would say the game that I go back to other than this is Smash. I play a lot of Smash Bros. Not as much as I used to, but I love Super Smash Brothers. So, but I'm a game player. Like I spend all my time, all my free time at least, playing one game or another. And I think like every gamer nowadays, I have that back catalog that's just like waiting on me. And I always hope to get through it, but in the back of my mind, I know that there are going to be games that just slip into oblivion.
Well, I know that feeling. I'm glad you mentioned Mario Wonder. I mean, I just played that recently, and I did some research. I don't know if you've gotten into like the speedrunning scene for it. It's got some crazy glitches, and I'm really excited to see what people can do with that game.
Yeah, I have a couple people I've met in this scene that have kind of moved over. Sorry, moved over to Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and so I see the kind of peripheral of the glitches and stuff like that in those games, and they're crazy. They're really cool. I've seen them kind of like drop off the world map to get into other locations and stuff like that. And I mean, I think it's a good point to bring up for me personally when I think about like glitch hunting and glitch hunting games. Like, do I see myself like picking up another game to glitch hunt or something like that? And it's hard because I don't see these other games being as fun to manipulate as like Tears of the Kingdom is. I mean, even Breath of the Wild is not as good in my opinion, because the amount of like freedom and the different controls you have in Tears of the Kingdom just open up this obscene amount of fun things to do. And placing objects in the world so you can find them in shrines or something like that. Building a platform that catches me and pulls me under the ground to a location while I have zero control. Like, I cannot imagine another game that would let me do something like that. Like literally, Minecraft maybe. Like you're just not going to get that kind of control out of Super Mario Brothers Wonder. So I was like, do I find myself wanting to glitch hunt those games? It's hard for me to imagine wanting to do that because I'm more like into like having an objective and trying to achieve it, and I don't feel like I could come up with any old objective and make it happen in another game like I can in this one. So
That's a good point, and I love what you say just about like even just for a casual player, like the amount of things that you can do and interact with. I mean, it blew my mind, and I'm still,
Yeah.
I guess, as a casual player, I'm really excited about the future of Zelda now that they've opened up the box. I guess with Ultra Hand and the Fuse system, it's like that's something that for me, it's like now that that's out there, it's like I want every future Zelda game to at least have Fuse in some way, just like crafting be a part of it, and just
Yeah, for
everything that
sure.
changes.
Yeah, this was something that was like, I had wondered because they had kind of attacked that multiplayer mod in Breath of the Wild, and this game was so like craft based that I was wondering, like, are they going to open this up to like try to have some sort of like multiplayer? Because um, as much as it is to play like alone, it's still like fun and amazing. It would be pretty crazy to be in someone else's game and to both like build stuff to fight each other. Like just imagining being able to play with another person in this, you could do so much. There's just so much you could, so many fun ideas you could have playing this game with somebody else. So it's kind of crazy. You know, yeah, I don't think there'll ever be a multiplayer mod for this, given the reception to the last one. But you know, given that it's so much fun to play alone, it would be twice as crazy to play with somebody else at the same time, you know?
Well, I feel like Nintendo's been interested in multiplayer Zelda for a while. They've done all these experiments with Force Swords and Triforce Heroes and Hyrule Warriors now. That it seems to
Yep.
me that that's something they are interested in. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm hopeful for a future Zelda game
That
because
would be
I'd love to fight
sick.
off monsters or fight
Like
each
a
other.
3D Four Swords adventure. I would,
Yeah.
I would kill to have that opportunity to play that. That'd be fun.
I totally agree.
Now
Yeah,
that
I
we
guess.
actually have online play, because Four Swords suffered from the fact that you needed to find 3 other friends that will actually play with you. So now that
And the
we have
controller
online,
too with Four
it's
Sword.
like,
Yeah, you needed the Game Boys, I think, for Four Swords
yeah,
Adventures. That was
yeah.
the whole thing.
I've always wanted to go back and play that, like find 3 people and like let's bear down and beat this game, because I always loved that concept for swords. Like I thought it was super cool, but through circle, I didn't want to beat it alone because I wanted to beat it the way that it was made, So one day,
Well, I recommend it if you ever get people together. Ah, man, I haven't done a multiplayer since it came out. I mean, just it was hard to find people with Game Boys now.
yeah.
I've played it as an adult, but it's hard.
I do hear that. I mean, I don't know if this is okay to say, but the emulators you can, you can play, you can connect with people online and play the game together. Apparently, that's what I hear. So I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna sign me up. I'll play it.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that on this channel. We have to be careful, but I won't say it too loud.
Yeah, for sure.
That's hilarious. Well, I will look into that myself because I'd love to do some multiplayer Four Swords.
Yeah. Well, if you ever get something together, dude, let me know. I'm in. Like,
I'll hit you up, and you hit me up if you figure anything out.
yeah, for sure.
It's been a joy to have you. Do you have any other questions? Do you have any questions for me to end the podcast?
No, I mean, I've been, I definitely saw when uh, Game Rant and some news articles picked up your Unflooded stuff, and a lot of that stuff came across my feed, and I think it's pretty interesting. I do kind of like want to know why. Like, why are you doing it? What's like, what's got you interested in this particular project?
Well, that's a good question. Let's see if I can give a short answer because there's a long answer. But I guess I remember playing the game as a kid all those years ago. When it came out in the mid 2000s, I played Wind Waker, and to me I always had this feeling that it told us that Hyrule was there. It told us that it was right there under the ocean. That all these islands that we saw were the mountaintops of Hyrule. But in that game, we never got to explore it, and I love that. I love that game's art style more than the other Zelda games. Wind Waker,
Hmm.
I connected with that game and that art style. And so to me,
Hmm.
it was just always like I wanted to see that version of Hyrule. Even if I got to explore Hyrule in other games, I wanted to see how it connected to these islands that I love in this art style. That's the short answer.
I like that. Yeah, because they always said what was down there, but we never really got got to visit it. It was all in our imaginations, and it's cool to kind of see, you working on this. I definitely have kept up with it, especially once it finally, it came across my feed. I've been enjoying kind of keeping up with what you've been up to with it. So, I'm definitely going to be following along for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm excited about all of your future videos. Excited to see the Great Sky Island get skipped in a speed run.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It'll happen.
That's the goal. I was gonna do that. I was gonna like kind of live stream and like just make one attempt, but yeah, I get sidetracked so easily, and so I'm like, there've been some promise to maybe skip it a lot faster, and just been spending the majority of my time trying to skip it faster. So I think we're close. I really do. And so hopefully we'll have some news on that front pretty soon.
Well, maybe by the time that this video releases, I'll have to put in the description.
Yeah, maybe. You never know with glitch hunting. That's the big thing is like I always hate making predictions because, it's a coin flip.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I keep up with a lot of like Mario 64 speed runs, and that game's been out, 30 years? Maybe not 30
Yep.
years, but a lot of years. And they're still coming up with new discoveries today. So
Yeah.
who knows how long?
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like this has this scene is developing a lot faster than Breath of the Wild did initially. There's a lot. I feel like there's a lot more people involved, and I think there's a lot more progress being made. And that's bound to slow down a little bit, but I feel like we've made so much progress already that it gives us a big foundation to continue to break it. You never know what the future holds for the speed runs and how they can get faster. But I feel like with the progress we've made so far, it's bound to get lower at some point.
Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you for being on the show, Timber.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll make sure to direct everyone towards your content. Are there any new videos you got coming soon that you want to plug?
No, not really. I mean, they could go back and watch the beating a shrine in 12 frames if they would like. That's a pretty new one, but I have nothing on the list currently, so we'll see.
Well, we'll find out what comes next, I guess, on our own then. But
For
without
sure.
further ado, thank you for being on the show. Thank you all for watching. Without further ado, I'll let you go.
Thanks.
Cut to black.